Hey guys, tonight we're rewinding the clock 4,000 years to a land where the air smells like burnt barley bread, river mud, and the faintest whiff of cosmic mystery. You're crouched in a dimly lit room in Uruk, modern-day Iraq, but let's not get bogged down by borders, and a Sumerian scribe hands you a clay tablet still warm from the kiln. Its cuneiform symbols press into your palm like tiny arrowheads, each wedge a puzzle piece in humanity's oldest board game. What even are the Anunnaki? Gods, metaphors for natural forces, or, as a certain corner of the internet insists, extraterrestrial CEOs here to mine Earth's resources and franchise humanity? Are all religions just a big lie? Or is there a kernel of something in these ancient star maps and temple hymns? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe open the window for that soft background sound, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The tablet in your hand tells a story older than the Bible, older than the pyramids, older than your weird uncle's conspiracy theory about Atlantis. It's the Epic of Gilgamesh, and buried in its lines about half-divine kings and cedar forests is the first written mention of the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. Scholars today still argue whether this phrase describes deities descending from a literal sky, psychological archetypes, or something else. Your scribe friend, let's call him Larry, chisels another line about the Anunnaki decreeing human fates while sipping divine beer from golden chalices. You squint at the symbols for heaven. In Sumerian, it's a word that also means sky, and awkwardly, a high place where important people hang out. Imagine if heaven just meant upstairs office. Here's a mainstream fact to ground you. The British Museum has over 130,000 of these tablets. Most are tax receipts. Yawn. But a few, like the one you're holding, are mythic blockbusters. Now, the quirky tidbit. In the 1970s, a researcher named Hildegard von Bingen, no relation to the medieval mystic, claimed to have found a god phone in the tablets, a cuneiform manual for building a clay model communication device to talk to the Anunnaki. Peer review was not kind to her. As Larry finishes his tablet, he smirks. His version of the Anunnaki myth includes a subplot where the gods get hangry and almost wipe out humans because their snack offerings were subpar. Historians still argue whether this is satire, theology, or Bronze Age Yelp criticism. You lean back, the oil lamp flickering. Somewhere, a donkey brays. The stars above Uruk pulse like the dashboard lights of something ancient, watching, patient. The oil lamp in Uruk gutters out, and suddenly, you're in a 1970s New York apartment, thick with cigarette smoke and the frantic clatter of a typewriter. Meet Zecharia Sitchin, economist, self-taught linguist, and the man who would launch 1,000 late-night History Channel specials. His glasses are askew, his tie loosened, and he's hunched over a photocopy of a 4,000-year-old Sumerian cylinder seal, like it's a crossword puzzle sent from the future. You lean over his shoulder, squinting at the tiny figures carved into the clay, humanoid beings, radiating lines that could be halos or space helmets. Sitchin stabs a finger at the inscription. Nibiru, he mutters, the 12th planet. Here's the mainstream fact. Sitchin's 1976 book, The 12th Planet, argues that the Anunnaki weren't gods, but aliens from a rogue planet called Nibiru, which swings by Earth every 3,600 years. According to him, they came here to mine gold, genetically engineered humans as their mining interns, and left behind a trail of myths as breadcrumbs. Academics, meanwhile, rolled their eyes so hard you could hear tenure-track tears hitting linoleum floors. His translations of Sumerian texts, they insisted, were less scholarly rigor and more fan fiction with a thesaurus. But let's get quirky. Sitchin once claimed that the Sumerian word shems, usually translated as name or reputation, actually meant rocket ship. Imagine rewriting history because you misread an emoji. And then Pharaoh's glorious Shems roared across the sky, trailing fire. Or maybe he just had a cool nickname. Even quirkier. The man believed the Anunnaki's gold mining operations were headquartered in modern-day Zimbabwe. Archaeologists digging there in the 90s found ancient mines but no alien locker rooms. You riffle through Sitchin's notes. Between diagrams of Nibiru's elliptical orbit and sketches of Anunnaki spaceports, there's a grocery list. Eggs, milk, Kolnasari, Planet X. Historians still argue whether Sitchin was a true believer, a grifter, or just a guy who watched too much Star Trek between translation binges. But here's the thing. His timing was impeccable. The 70s were ripe for cosmic conspiracy. Watergate eroded trust in institutions, chariots of the gods, had already primed the pump, and everyone was high on the idea that someone out there had a better instruction manual for life. As Sitchin types, his cat knocks over a coffee cup onto a stack of cuneiform dictionaries. He doesn't notice. He's too busy decoding a passage about the Anunnaki's fiery chariots, which he's decided are obviously spacecraft. Never mind that the same word, Malamu, also describes the aura of glory around Mesopotamian kings. Imagine if future scholars argued that Beyoncé's halo was literal. You glance out his grimy window. The New York skyline twinkles, and for a second, those lights could be stars, or the distant cities of Nibiru, forever hovering at the edge of human imagination. Somewhere, a car backfires. Sitchin jumps, then laughs nervously. Meteorite. He tells no one. Sitchin's typewriter fades into the clang of bronze pickaxes striking rock. The air here is thick with dust and the tang of sweat. You're deep in a Mesopotamian mine shaft circa 2500 BCE, where shirtless workers chant hymns to Enki, god of groundwater and apparently occupational health violations. Their torches flicker against walls veined with gold, casting shadows that twist like tired gods. According to Sitchin's playbook, this isn't just a mine. It's an interstellar corporate branch office, and the Anunnaki are middle managers desperate to meet their quarterly quota. But why gold? Why would beings from a planet we can't even prove exists need Earth's bling? Theorists whisper about Nibiru's failing atmosphere, claiming the Anunnaki needed gold nanoparticles to fix their ozone layer, a kind of cosmic sunscreen. Historians, meanwhile, mutter about gold's timeless role as a metaphor for power. Both sides agree on one thing. Humans have always been weirdly obsessed with shiny yellow metal. Here's the mainstream fact to anchor you. Gold was sacred in ancient Mesopotamia, but not for bling. It symbolized the sun's eternal light, a divine metal used to plate temple statues and royalty's favorite goblets. The quirky twist. In 1998, a Russian pseudoscientist named Dmitry Ivanovich built a gold particle dispenser 3000 to test the atmospheric repair theory. He claimed it could spray gold dust into the stratosphere to combat climate change. It malfunctioned, coating his dacha in glitter. Peer review was not kind to him either. You crouch to examine a glinting nugget in the mine. A foreman barks at you in Sumerian, something about productivity metrics. Workers haul baskets of ore up ropes, their muscles straining under the weight of a godly supply chain. If the Anunnaki were here for gold, they picked the messiest possible extraction method. No lasers, no drones, just sweaty humans and donkeys. Modern miners use cyanide. These guys used prayers and elbow grease. Historians still argue whether gold's sacred status stemmed from its rarity or its resistance to tarnish. Metaphor alert. Immortality. Anyone. But let's lean into the fringe for a moment. If the Anunnaki needed gold for their planet's survival, why not just ask? Imagine aliens landing at the UN. Greetings, humans. We require 10,000 tons of AU. Here's a replicator that turns sand into sushi. Instead, per the myths, they created Homo sapiens as a labor force. You wonder if this is the universe's oldest gig economy story. The mineshaft echoes with the rhythmic thunk of tools. Somewhere above ground, a priest checks the offering table. Golden trinkets laid out like quarterly reports. If you squint, the whole operation feels like a startup. Venture capitalists, gods, outsourcing grunt work to interns, humans, while skimming the IPO, eternal worship. The Anunnaki's alleged departure, a cosmic merger, maybe, acquisition by a higher power. As you climb out of the mine, the sunlight blinds you. A caravan trundles past, gold-laden donkeys kicking up dust. One worker whispers a joke about Enki's management style. He gives us the river, but not the shovel. Everyone laughs, but it's edged with fatigue. The line between God and taskmaster blurs here. Above, a hawk circles, something the ancients might have called a drone or a divine auditor. You pocket a fleck of gold just to feel its weight. It's warm, like something alive. Maybe that's why we still care. Gold outlives empires, outshines dogma, survives even the wildest theories. The mine fades behind you, but the question lingers. Were the Anunnaki miners metaphors or the ultimate middle managers? The stars don't answer. They just keep doing whatever stars do, burning, laughing, maybe mining their own gold. The mines fade into a damp, dim chamber that smells of wet clay and ozone. A divine lab maybe, or the world's oldest HR department. Here, under the flicker of oil lamps that cast long shadows like accusing fingers, a group of Anunnaki huddle around a pit filled with reddish sludge. One of them, labeled Enki in your mental subtitles, rolls up his sleeves and sighs. All right, team, we need a better worker. Something that can handle night shifts, doesn't unionize, and survives on breadcrumbs and existential dread. The others nod. You've just walked into the Sumerian version of a Silicon Valley garage startup, except instead of apps, they're brewing humans. The mainstream fact anchoring this scene, the Atrahasis epic, a 3,800-year-old poem where the gods create humans to relieve their workload. The recipe, clay mixed with the blood of a slain god, Geshtu-i, whose name literally means ear or intelligence, poetic, or a literal ingredient list. Scholars still argue whether this myth rationalized human mortality, we die because our divine spark is diluted, or served as Bronze Age commentary on labor exploitation. Either way, it's the ultimate "we made you to serve us" origin story. Now, the quirky twist. In 2003, a bioartist named Genya X claims to have recreated the Anunnaki's process. Using CRISPR, clay, and a dash of his own blood, he attempted to engineer a Neo-Adamu in his Brooklyn loft. The result? A gelatinous blob that emitted a faint hum. He named it Steve and live-streamed it reciting cuneiform poetry. The comments section oscillated between "this is genius" and "call an exorcist." You crouch beside Enki as he kneads the clay, his fingers leaving grooves that look suspiciously like cuneiform. The other gods grumble about overtime pay. Apparently even deities hate crunch time. One mutters, "should have outsourced to the Igigi," referencing the lower-tier gods who went on strike earlier. Yes, Mesopotamia had labor strikes. The first recorded one was in 2350 BCE. Add that to your workers' rights timeline. The creation myth gets wilder. To animate the clay, the Anunnaki perform a ritual involving spit, incantations, and what your inner skeptic insists is just kombucha. The first humans, Lulu, primitive ones, stagger to their feet, eyes glazed like toddlers after a nap. Enki high-fives his sister, Ninhursag, the project's lead geneticist, before assigning the newbies to mine duty. "Don't forget to tag us in your Ars Blessed posts," he jokes. Or maybe you're projecting. Historians still argue whether Adamu, the Akkadian name for the first human, was a metaphor for societal hierarchy. Elites as divine, workers as clay. But let's flirt with the fringe. Ancient astronaut theorists claim the blood of the god detail is clearly alien DNA splicing. They needed our planet's resources but couldn't handle the gravity, insists a YouTube video playing in your head. So they cooked up hybrids, like organic Roombas. You follow a freshly minted human to the mines. He trips over a rock, and Enki face palms. Iteration 1.0 needs patches, he groans. It's a familiar tech cycle. Launch now, fix later. The human's thoughts, as best you can translate, oscillate between "why am I here?" and "I should have stayed clay." The existential crisis market is booming. As the shift drags on, you notice something odd. These humans adapt. They invent better tools, whisper stories around fires, doodle on tablets. Ninhursag watches them, uneasy. They're learning too fast, she tells Enki. Next, they'll ask for dental. He shrugs. Just add more Enlil. Enlil, the Anunnaki CEO, later tries to delete humans via flood, but that's Section 5's problem. You pocket a clay shard from the lab. It's cool, gritty, alive with the irony that the very substance used to diminish humans also birthed civilization. Pottery, tablets, architecture, all descendants of that divine Play-Doh. The chamber fades, but Adamu's descendants remain, still mining, still wondering if they're interns or innovators. Above them, the stars twinkle like distant office parks, their break rooms stocked with ambrosia and excuses. The clatter of pickaxes dissolves into the patter of rain. Gentle at first, then relentless, drumming against mud brick walls like a billion impatient fingers. You're in Shurupak, a Sumerian city buzzing with rumors of divine layoffs. The air reeks of wet wool and panic. A local priest climbs onto a ziggurat steps, shouting about divine restructuring, as mothers hoist children onto rooftops and carpenters frantically pitch Noah-esque bargains. Buy one ark, get 50% off unicorn figurines. According to the myths, the Anunnaki decided humanity had become too loud, too numerous, too aware. So they voted to flush the experiment and start fresh. Enlil, the boardroom hardliner, pushed for the deluge. Enki, the rogue HR manager, leaked the plan to a human named Atrahasis. Cue the ultimate corporate espionage tale, with rain checks. Mainstream fact time. The Mesopotamian flood myth, etched into the Epic of Gilgamesh and Atrahasis, predates the biblical Noah story by over a millennium. Archaeologists have found silt layers in Ur dating to around 2900 BCE, hinting at a real catastrophic flood. But was it global? Scholarly consensus says localized trauma, global metaphor. Quirky twist. In 1984, a retired dentist named Dr. Leonard Marples claimed to have found Atrahasis' Ark wedged in a Turkish glacier. The Ark turned out to be a rock formation shaped like a boat if you squinted after 3 martinis. You slog through knee-deep water toward Enki's safe house. A reed hut stocked with survival gear and a suspiciously modern-looking percolator. The god of mischief is coaching Atrahasis on Ark logistics. Round boats are better, Enki insists, sketching a coracle on a clay tablet. Less likely to capsize, also Instagrammable. Atrahasis, sweating through his tunic, mutters about zoning laws and homeowners association drama. Outside, the rain crescendos into a roar. Rivers burst their banks, swallowing fields and temples like a kid dunking cookies in milk. Historians still argue whether the flood symbolized societal collapse, a Bronze Age reset after overpopulation and resource wars. But let's flirt with the fringe. Ancient astronaut theorists claim the deluge was a cleanse cycle initiated by the Anunnaki to wipe flawed prototypes. 1.0 humans had too many bugs. Let's try again after the reboot. Others whisper it was a cover-up, drowning evidence of their genetic tinkering. You half expect Mulder and Scully to slosh past, flashlights in hand. Enki hands Atrahasis a GPS, golden positioning star, and a survival manual titled, "So You've Been Chosen to Repopulate Humanity." The last page reads, "Good luck, management." As the Ark bobs on rising waters, livestock bleating in protest, you spot pairs of animals boarding, lions with nap anxiety, snakes judging everyone, and a particularly unimpressed ox. The Anunnaki's reasons unravel in real time. Was this punishment, a failed project, or cosmic NIMBYism? Your cities are ruining the view from Nibiru Airbnbs. For 7 days and nights, the rain hammers down. The stars vanish, as if the gods themselves have ghosted. Atrahasis's Ark becomes a floating trauma ward where humans and animals bond over shared nausea. Enki, now in a rubber ducky-themed life vest, FaceTimes Enlil. You've made your point. Turn off the sprinklers. Enlil, sipping ambrosia by a pool, grumbles about setting precedents. When the waters recede, the survivors stumble onto mudflats glistening with fish skeletons and shattered pottery. The air smells like wet concrete and possibility. Atrahasis builds an altar, roasts a goat, and carves a scathing review of the Anunnaki's customer service. Enlil, smelling the barbecue, softens. Fine, he booms, but next time, fewer humans, more incense. You wring out your cloak, wondering if this was a divine tantrum or a calculated reboot. The answer's buried under millennia of mud and metaphor. As the survivors scatter, a rainbow fractures the sky. Sumerian PR spin, maybe, or a celestial "our bad" card. Somewhere, a dove forgets where it parked its olive branch. The flood's echoes ripple forward. In Hindu Manvantaras, Aztec sun cycles, Hollywood disaster flicks, each retelling asks the same question. Was the deluge a warning, a mistake, or a glitch in the godly codebase? The Ark, now beached and barnacled, creaks in the wind. Its timber holds stories of survival, yes, but also of celestial indecision. Above, a vulture circles, eyeing the cleanup job. The floodwaters retreat, leaving behind a mud-caked world, and you, ankle-deep in the Nile's fertile sludge, squinting at a horizon studded with geometric mountains. Pyramids, or as the locals call them, Mer, meaning place of ascension. The air here is oven-dry, smelling of limestone dust and ambition. A foreman barks orders at workers hauling a 2.5-ton block, their chants syncopated with the river's pulse. This better be worth it for the afterlife benefits. You've slipped into Egypt now, where the gods have animal heads and the Wi-Fi is still 3,000 years away. But wait, those myths about sky gods handing down blueprints. Where have you heard that before? Let's mainstream fact first. The Step Pyramid of Djoser, built around 2650 BCE, is the world's oldest colossal stone structure. Designed by Imhotep, architect, doctor, and proto-Elon Musk of his day, it kicked off Egypt's pyramid frenzy. Now, the quirky twist. In 1968, a French electrician named Jean-Pierre Houdin claimed to have found hidden chambers in the Great Pyramid using a DIY electromagnetic detector. The device, jury-rigged from a toaster and a car battery, allegedly pinged near the Queen's chamber. Archaeologists dismissed it. Houdin now sells pyramid-themed board games on Etsy. You trail a crew of laborers as they lash logs under a stone block, inching it toward Giza. Their supervisor, a scribe named Kaba, unrolls a papyrus blueprint marked with star alignments and annotations like Thoth's specs, do not deviate. The workers grumble about deadlines. Pharaoh Khufu wants his cosmic launch pad built yesterday, and the Anunnaki aren't returning his calls. Wait, Anunnaki? Weren't they Sumerian? Yet here, chiseled into a temple wall, is a familiar scene. Gods handing measuring rods to humans. The Egyptians called them Netjeru, but the vibe is identical. Celestial contractors, divine project managers. Historians still argue whether pyramid similarities across cultures are coincidence, shared human psychology, or proof of a lost, globalized mythos. But the fringe hums louder. Von Däniken's Chariots of the Gods insisted the pyramids were alien landing pads, their perfect angles mirroring constellations only visible from space. Never mind that Orion's belt was also, visible from Earth. You crouch to examine a hieroglyph of Osiris, green-skinned, wrapped like a mummy, holding a flail and crook. If you squint, he looks like an astronaut who forgot his helmet. The workers take a lunch break, nibbling onions and flatbread. One quips, "If the gods wanted a stairway to heaven, they could have installed escalators." Everyone laughs, but there's awe beneath the sweat. These stones fit together so tightly, you couldn't slip a credit card between them. How? Theories range from levitation tech, thank you, New Age YouTube, to ramps so massive they dwarf the pyramids themselves. You imagine Anunnaki foremen shrugging. We gave them the math, the rest is team building. Kaaba shows you the blueprint's margin notes, a list of materials including Tura limestone and divine light. The architect's signature is a smudged thumbprint. For all their precision, the pyramids were built by humans who got blisters, made typos, and probably argued about lunch breaks. Yet the fringe clings to the perfect math. The Great Pyramid's base divided by its height equals 2p. Except it doesn't really, not unless you cherry-pick qubits. It's like saying your mum's meatloaf recipe predicts quantum physics, because she used a teaspoon. As sunset stains the desert pink, you climb the pyramid's side. Don't tell UNESCO. The view is all dunes and dying light. The Nile, a snake of liquid onyx. At the summit, a priest adjusts an alignment rod pointing to Sirius. The star's light fills the king's chamber on his birthday, he says. Coincidence? You want to say yes, but the coincidences pile up. Sumerian gods gifting civilization, Egyptian gods gifting architecture, and a nagging sense that humanity's greatest hits were all cover songs. Back on solid ground, you pass a vendor selling miniature pyramid paperweights. Guaranteed to focus your energy, he hollers. You pocket one. It's lighter than expected, like the difference between myth and mortar. The workers resume their chant, their voices blending with the desert wind. Somewhere, a stone slips into place, another piece of a puzzle no one fully understands. The stars emerge, and for a moment, they align with the pyramid's apex, as if threading a needle through time. The pyramid's shadows stretch long into the desert night. And as you tilt your head back, the Milky Way smears across the sky like chalk dust on a blackboard. You're no longer in Egypt. You're adrift in the cosmic classroom where astronomers and mythologists throw equations and epithets at each other. Nibiru, that phantom planet Sitchin swore was real, hangs in the room like a piñata nobody can quite hit. On one side, astrophysicists with whiteboards cluttered with Kepler's laws and perturbed orbits. On the other, true believers clutching Sumerian cylinder seals like boarding passes to Planet X. The air smells like stale coffee and the ozone crackle of a debate that's been raging since Pluto got demoted to ice dwarf. Let's ground this in a mainstream fact. The Sumerians were brilliant astronomers. They tracked Venus, mapped constellations, and even noted the precession of equinoxes, a wobble in Earth's axis that shifts the stars' positions over millennia. Their math was precise, their metaphors less so. The quirky twist. In 2012, an amateur astronomer in Idaho named Roy Tucker spent his life savings building a backyard observatory to find Nibiru. He discovered a potato-shaped asteroid, named it Roy's Regret, and now runs a TikTok debunking flat planet nonsense. You float toward the whiteboard, where a NASA scientist scribbles orbital mechanics in red marker. Nibiru's proposed 3,600-year elliptical orbit around the Sun, she explains, would require a gravitational ballet so unstable it'd make Saturn's rings look like a conga line. For a planet that size to avoid ripping apart the solar system, she says, it'd need thrusters, a prayer circle, and a PhD in ninja stealth. Meanwhile, a man in a Nibiru or bust hoodie counters, but the Enuma Elish says it's real, referring to the Babylonian creation myth. The scientist sighs. The Enuma Elish also says the sky is made of dead gods. Let's not take it literally. Historians still argue whether references to Nibiru in Mesopotamian texts describe a rogue planet, a metaphor for chaos, or an ancient SEO trick to boost temple tourism. But here's the fringe's counter. Of course you can't see Nibiru. It's cloaked in dark matter and government disinfo. You imagine a planet-sized Klingon bird of prey parked behind the sun, its crew binge-watching human history like a cringy reality show. You drift past a 1970s-era computer chugging through celestial simulations. It spits out a dot matrix printout, orbital impossibru. Someone has doodled a frowny face on it. The numbers don't lie. Nibiru's orbit would have shredded the inner solar system like confetti. But myths are stickier than physics. The Sumerians wrote of a winged disk that comes every 3,600 years, and Sitchin, God bless him, took that as a transit schedule. Never mind that the same text describes the disk as radiant as a lion's mane, which could just be a comet, or a bad metaphor, or ancient poetry about existential dread. The room flickers with holograms of the solar system. Jupiter's storms swirl, Mars looks on judgmentally, and Pluto sulks in the corner with a "still a planet to me" mug. A grad student mutters, "If Nibiru existed, we'd see its gravitational footprint." The man in the hoodie fires back, "You can't see Wi-Fi either, but you're using it to tweet." Touché, but also, oof. You zoom out to the Kuiper Belt, where icy bodies dart like shy partygoers. Could Nibiru be hiding here? Scientists discovered Sedna in 2003, a dwarf planet with a wonky orbit, but even its 11,400-year loop around the Sun is a far cry from Nibiru's alleged timetable. Conspiracy forums erupted anyway. Sedna's the advanced scout. Meanwhile, the ancients roll their eyes in their graves. Back on Earth, a cuneiform tablet from 1800 BCE waits in a museum drawer. Its text describes Nibiru as the place of crossing, likely a reference to Jupiter's path in the sky. But in the hands of a fringe theorist, it's a UFO traffic report. You trace the wedges with your finger, feeling the weight of words stretch thinner than alien abduction alibis. As dawn breaks, the debate winds down. The scientist packs her markers. The true believer tucks his hoodie over his head. Outside, the desert sky pales to sapphire. A satellite blinks past, humanity's own winged disk, all solar panels and no mystique. You linger, wondering why the Nibiru myth endures. Maybe it's the same reason we binge-watch apocalypse shows, the thrill of a cosmic deadline, the romance of a hidden truth, the comfort of believing someone out there has a plan, even if that plan is, steal our gold and ghost us. The stars fade, but the question remains, orbiting the edges of thought. Somewhere, Sitchin's ghost revises his manuscript, adding a footnote. Pluto's still pissed. The cosmic debate fizzles as your stomach growls. Turns out pondering alien planets works up an appetite. Suddenly, you're reclining on a cushioned dais in a Sumerian banquet hall, where the air is thick with roasted meat, honeyed dates, and the vegetal funk of fermented barley. A server plunks down a golden platter piled with something. It glistens. It wobbles. It might be alive. Ambrosia of the Anunnaki, the server announces, bowing. A delicacy from the divine pantry. You poke it with a dagger-shaped utensil. The dish quivers ominously. Mainstream fact incoming. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes the Anunnaki feasting on bread of the gods and wine that makes the heart see stars. Tablets from Mari detail lavish divine menus, honey-glazed lamb, fig cakes, beer so thick you could chew it. But here's the quirky twist. In 2016, a food blogger named Lila Marquez attempted to recreate Anunnaki recipes using molecular gastronomy. Her Neo-Sumerian ambrosia involved gold leaf, CBD oil, and a probiotic foam that allegedly induced mild visions. It went viral, then viral in the bad way when several food critics called in sick with existential ennui. You glance around the banquet. The Anunnaki, decked in bling that'd make a rapper blush, toast each other with jeweled goblets. Enlil, CEO of the Pantheon, holds court, bragging about his latest flood project. Wiped out 90% of their infrastructure, he says, mouthful. Efficiency metrics are stellar. Enki, slumped in his seat, mutters about collateral damage and spikes his beer with something from a vial. A server whispers, "It's Sikaru, a beer infused with psychoactive herbs." Historians still argue whether these feasts were literal meals, metaphors for cosmic order, or ancient networking events fueled by hallucinogens. You take a tentative bite of the ambrosia. It tastes like lavender, burnt caramel, and a hint of Wi-Fi router? The texture is halfway between flan and a stress ball. Anunnaki laughter booms as a minor god, Ninurta, challenges Ninhursag to a drinking contest. The stakes: control of the Tigris River's irrigation schedule. You can't tell if this is diplomacy or a frat party. Quirky tidbit alert. In 1987, a Texas BBQ mogul named Buck Henderson claimed the Anunnaki's bread of the gods was actually brisket. He launched a line of smoked meats called Nibiru's Noms, complete with labels depicting aliens in aprons. The venture failed when health inspectors flagged the mystery rub as 70% sawdust. The feast crescendos. Servers haul in a roasted bull garnished with edible gold. A flex so extra it predates Instagram by millennia. Enki, now tipsy, slurs something about humans being the real snack and passes out. You sidle up to a goddess nibbling pomegranate seeds. Why the gold, you ask? She shrugs. Digestive aid. Also, it's pretty. Mainstream scholars suggest gold's inclusion in ritual meals symbolized immortality. Fringe theorists insist it was part of the Anunnaki's mineral supplement regimen for surviving Earth's vibes. As the night wears on, a bard strums a lyre and sings of the Anunnaki's first feast after creating humans. They ate, they drank, they said, "Good job, team. Now who's going to clean this up?" The crowd roars. You notice the humans, servants, cooks, the guy refilling olive oil, exchanging glances. Their faces say, "We built your ziggurats, Karen." But the divide between divine and mortal widens with each course. The ambrosia's kicking in now. The hall shimmers. Enlil's crown hovers like a UFO. A platter of dates morphs into a spinning galaxy. You wonder if the Anunnaki spiked the hummus. Nin Hersag offers you a hangover cure, a clay potion that smells like wet dog and myrrh. You decline, politely. By dawn, the gods have staggered off to their sky chambers, leaving crumbs and cosmic quandaries. The servants sweep up, pocketing leftover gold flakes. One whispers, "They call it ambrosia, but it's just fancy leftovers." You step outside, where the Euphrates glints under a peach-colored sky. The air smells like bread ovens and regret. A vendor at the riverbank sells Anunnaki energy balls, now with 10% more stardust. You buy one. It's stale, but the gold sprinkles catch the light. As you chew, a heron glides over the water, its reflection rippling like a secret. Maybe the gods' banquets were just ancient potlucks, overcomplicated, self-congratulatory, and ultimately about filling voids deeper than hunger. Or maybe they really did eat stardust. The recipe, like the Anunnaki themselves, remains half buried, half imagined. The clink of golden goblets fades into the whisper of a reed stylus scratching clay. You're in a dim archive now, shelves groaning under the weight of tablets stacked like ancient takeout menus. The air smells of dust and the faintest hint of panic. This is where Sumer keeps its receipts. Literally. A scribe with ink-stained fingers unrolls a ledger titled "Kings Who Lived Forever. Terms and Conditions Apply." You lean in. The first entry. Alulim of Eridu. Reign 28,800 years. His successor, Alalgar. 36,000 years. The math doesn't math. Did they have a time machine, you ask, or just really good skincare? Mainstream fact incoming. The Sumerian King List, a cuneiform tablet dating to 2100 BCE, records rulers before and after the Great Flood, some reigning for tens of thousands of years. Scholars still argue whether these absurd lifespans were propaganda, kings as quasi-divine, metaphors for dynasties, or the result of a scribe who really loved commas. The list blends historical figures with mythical ones, like a LinkedIn profile written by Tolkien. Now, the quirky twist. In 2019, a biohacker named Trent Vanderploeg claimed he'd isolated the Methuselah gene from Mesopotamian DNA samples. His startup, Anunnaki Age, sold a serum made from fermented dates, crushed lapis lazuli, and a dash of CRISPR. Testimonials included a yoga influencer who swore she'd reversed time. Her Instagram filter did most of the work. The FDA shut it down, but not before Trent sold out at Burning Man. You run your finger down the king list. Etana, the shepherd who ascended to heaven, 420 years. Lugalbanda, Gilgamesh's dad, 1,200 years. The numbers balloon like a kid bragging about their high score. A librarian sidles up, whispering, "They counted in base 60, you know. Maybe it's all a decimal point mix-up." You imagine a frantic scribe. Wait, 28,800 years or 28.8? Too late. The tablet's baked. Historians still argue whether these reigns reflect a lost understanding of time, e.g. lunar cycles versus solar years, or pure myth-making. But let's flirt with the fringe. Ancient astronaut theorists insist the kings were half Anunnaki hybrids, their longevity proof of alien DNA. They had the Gilgamesh gene, declares a podcast blaring from a tourist's headphones. Big pharma's hiding it to sell more statins. You spot a footnote in the ledger. Post-flood kings have shorter reigns. Flood reset the divine Wi-Fi. Post-Diluvian rulers like Ur-Nammu last a mere 18 years, a blip compared to their antediluvian grandpas. The scribe shrugs. The gods got stingy with the immortality juice after the flood. Budget cuts. A sunbeam slants through a high window, illuminating a tablet titled "How to Retire Like a Sumerian King." Spoiler, you don't. Tips include marry a goddess and avoid assassination by sibling. One entry details King Dumuzid's reign ending when he was carried off by a river demon. Modern translation. He partied too hard and face-planted into the Euphrates. You drift into a side chamber where a modern historian debates a cuneiform chatbot. But why 241,000 years total, she asks. The chatbot replies in Comic Sans, "Error. Divine math unresolved. Please sacrifice a goat." Meanwhile, a tour group snaps selfies with a replica of the list. "Smile like you'll live 30,000 years, the guide chirps. As evening bleeds into the archive, you find a discarded tablet in a bin. It's a tax record. Year 12, reign of Shulgi, 5 goats, 3 bushels barley, 1 complaint about immortality serum side effects. Even eternal kings couldn't escape bureaucracy. You step outside, where the stars are just beginning to prick the twilight. A vendor sells Sumerian serum face cream. The label promises Anunnaki-approved radiance. You decline. The real secret to longevity, it seems, is a mix of myth, math, and the audacity to say, "Trust me, I'm basically a god." The scribe waves goodbye, his stylus still scratching. Somewhere, Alolim's ghost updates his Tinder profile. Eternal ruler seeking eternal partner. Must love floods. The immortal king's ledgers blur into a cacophony of clattering clay, tick, 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 like 1,000 typewriters manned by hyper-caffeinated scribes. You're in a Sumerian scribal school, where the air reeks of wet clay and teenage rebellion. A teacher slaps a fresh tablet onto your desk. Lesson 1. How to write grain shipment without sounding like a donkey wrote it. You pick up a reed stylus, its tip sharp enough to puncture your ego. This is cuneiform boot camp, where wedge meets clay and metaphors go to die. Mainstream fact to anchor you. Cuneiform, one of humanity's earliest writing systems, evolved from pictographs to abstract symbols around 3000 BCE. By 2500 BCE, it was used for everything from love poems to lawsuits against dodgy beer vendors. The quirky twist. In 2021, a programmer named Riya Patel designed a cuneiform emoji keyboard. Translation: your loan payment is overdue, but here's a fire emoji to soften the blow. It flopped, but not before a Reddit thread debated whether the symbol for God should double as a flex emoji. You press the stylus into clay, carving a triangle. Dingir, the teacher says. Divine prefix. Use it for gods, or when you want your tax exemption request to sound fancy. Next to you, a student etches a complaint about his roommate's snoring. Enkidu's nasal roar shakes the walls like Enlil's wrath. Send help, or earplugs. The teacher grades it with a snort. Passable. But next time, use more metaphors. Gods love metaphors. The classroom buzzes with administrative angst. Tablets pile up, crop reports, marriage contracts, a scathing Yelp review of a priest who skimmed temple offerings. 1 star. The barley was damp and his blessings had 0 follow-through. You uncover a tablet labeled Godly Quotas, Q3. It details the Anunnaki's monthly demands: 600 bushels of wheat, 200 jugs of beer, and 1 human volunteer for light janitorial duties in the celestial sphere. The gods bicker in marginal notes. Enki: why does Enlil's temple get 20 extra goats? Enlil: because my ziggurat is taller. Cry about it. Ninhursag: can we focus? The humans are watching. It's less divine decree and more divine Slack channel. Historians still argue whether these texts reflect actual temple logistics or satirical commentary on bureaucracy. Either way, the Anunnaki's HR drama feels eerily relatable. Quirky tidbit alert. In 1999, a British postal worker named Clive Potts spent his weekends writing cuneiform grocery lists. His magnum opus, a clay tablet titled Tesco Run, featuring symbols for toilet paper, and regret. The British Museum declined to acquire it, calling the work anachronistically charming. You attempt a love poem. Your eyes are like the tigress at dawn. Your laugh, a donkey's bray, but in a good way. The teacher grimaces. Stick to tax records. Cuneiform, you realize, is the original TLDR. Wedge-shaped symbols cutting stories to their bare bones. A single could mean land, country, or that one field where Lama's sheep keep escaping. Efficiency over elegance, baby. Between lessons, you eavesdrop on scribes gossiping about the Anunnaki's latest faux pas. Did you hear about Inanna's temple renovation? She demanded gold-plated doorknobs. Gold! Like we're made of Nibiru. Another scribe rolls his eyes. At least she didn't flood us again. They snicker, then freeze when a priest walks by. The school's star pupil, a prodigy named Namhani, shows off her latest work, a flowchart of divine bureaucracy. This is how Ishtar processes prayer requests, she explains. Step 1, accept offering. Step 2, forward to appropriate department. Step 3, ghost for 3 to 6 business months. The teacher gives her a rare smile. You'll go far, maybe even to the afterlife admin office. As dusk stains the clay walls orange, you sneak into the archives. Shelves groan under tablets labeled complaints. Celestial and meme templates, 2100 BCE. One fragile fragment reads, "Why do we work here?" Followed by a smudged reply. Health plan includes afterlife dental. You pocket a practice tablet, your shaky attempt at writing, "I will not question the gods' snack quotas," 100 times. Outside, the city hums with traders hawking dates and the thwack of clay being moulded into tomorrow's paperwork. A bard strolls by singing, "Oh, scribe, your wedges are so fine, but your spelling's a crime against Shulgi's divine line." Cuneiform, you realize, isn't just writing. It's the ancient internet, a network of symbols connecting farms to temples, kings to peasants, gods to whoever's stuck managing their snack budget. The stylus blisters your hand, but there's magic in these wedges. They built empires, bored students, and immortalized the pettiest of divine squabbles. As you leave, a recruit etches a final note. First day of scribe school. Made a wedge. Destroyed my dignity. The teacher nods. Welcome to history. The scribal school's clay dust fades into the damp chill of an underground chamber. Water drips somewhere. Plink. 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 Like time leaking. Before you stands a figure draped in rippling fish-scale robes, his beard braided with lapis lazuli strands. Enki, Sumerian god of wisdom, groundwater, and questionable decisions. He's hunched over a stone table cluttered with vials of glowing algae, coiled copper wires, and a clay tablet titled Project Sapience. Phase 3, ethics bypassed. The air smells like wet rock and ozone, with a top note of rebellion. Mainstream fact first. In Mesopotamian myth, Enki is the ultimate trickster promoter. He gifts humanity with divine decrees governing arts, tech, and civilization, sabotages his brother Enlil's genocidal plans, and once got drunk and gave all creation to a demoness named Inanna as a joke. Scholars still argue whether he's a benevolent benefactor or a chaos agent with a savior complex. You pick up a vial. Inside, bioluminescent eels writhe. Neural accelerant, Enki mutters, not looking up. Helps you question authority. He winks. On the wall, a flowchart maps Human Cognition 1.0, Critical Thinking Patch 2.7. One box reads, Side effects, existential dread, bad poetry, occasional revolution, quirky twist. In 2015, biohackers at a Berlin collective called Prometheus Labs injected themselves with Enki's elixir, a cocktail of nootropics and zebrafish DNA, to unlock forbidden knowledge. Results included enhanced pattern recognition and an uncontrollable urge to reorganize grocery stores by cosmic resonance. Health authorities were unamused. Enki gestures to a hologram flickering above the table. Humans building irrigation canals instead of hauling rocks for ziggurats. See? Innovation. But then the scene glitches. Humans forging swords, arguing over star charts, writing satirical plays titled Enlil, the Musical. Enki rubs his temples. Okay, maybe Phase 3 needs tweaking. A subordinate god, Isimud, two-faced, literally, rushes in. Lord Enki, Enlil's furious. He says humans asking why violates Divine Protocol 7. Enki sighs. Tell him, it's a feature, not a bug. He said to unfeature it. Or else. Or else what? Another flood. Yawn. Historians still argue whether Enki's gifts were true altruism, a middle finger to Enlil, or a cosmic prank gone right. You eye the tablet. A scratched outline reads, motivation, boredom, spite, guilt, slave labor. You drift to a shelf stacked with gifts Enki gave humanity. A plow shaped like a serpent, efficiency. A lyre with discordant strings, artistic expression. A clay grenade labeled, for emergencies only. Oops. Isimud whimpers. Enlil's auditing us next Tuesday. He'll demote you to god of mud puddles. Enki grins. Then let's give him more to audit. He grabs a stylus and etches symbols onto a fresh tablet. Cuneiform schematics for a wind-powered grain mill. Leak this to the humans in Shurupak, anonymously. This is Enki's paradox. He loves order. He engineered rivers, yet can't resist unraveling it. Like a dad who builds a treehouse, then hands the kids a blowtorch. Ancient astronaut theorists claim he was an alien scientist gone rogue, sabotaging the Nibiru corporate mission by upgrading the worker drones. You half expect him to whisper, "Wake up, sheeple." Suddenly, a tremor shakes the chamber. Dust rains from the ceiling. Enlil's voice booms from a speaking tube. Cease intellectual uploads. Return to mining. Enki kicks the tube. Make me, you glorified thundercloud. He turns to you, lowering his voice. Look, was giving you lot curiosity risky? Sure. But the alternative? He gestures to a hologram of humans mindlessly stacking bricks. Boring. And boring is the real sin. As you slip out, Enki's humming and etching plans for a submarine. For aquatic research, definitely not escaping floods. Outside, moonlight stripes the Euphrates. A fisherman mends his net using a knot Enki inspired in a dream. Downriver, rebels scribble protest poetry on potsherds. Enki's legacy isn't just fire stolen from gods. It's the spark itself. Dangerous, messy, and brighter than any divine decree. You pocket a shard of lapis from his floor. It's cool, deep blue, like wisdom dipped in twilight. Somewhere, a human child asks, "Why can't we fly?" Enki, eavesdropping from his aquifer, grins and reaches for his stylus. Enki's aquifer fades into the static hiss of a 1960s television set, its glow painting a suburban living room in shades of nuclear paranoia. You're sprawled on shag carpet that smells of cigarette ash and lemon pledge, watching Walter Cronkite's grey face flicker on screen. Soviet submarines spotted off Cuba. Outside, a neighbor practices duck and cover drills, while his wife clips coupons for fallout shelters. The air thrums with a new kind of dread, one where gods are replaced by geopolitics, and doomsday comes stamped with a Pentagon seal. Then, a commercial break. A man in a cheap suit hawks a book called Extraterrestrial Genesis, claiming ancient aliens hold the key to surviving the atomic age. swap ziggurats for missile silos, and the Anunnaki are back in business. Mainstream fact to ground you: the Cold War, 1947-1991, birthed UFO mania as a cultural pressure valve. Sighting reports spiked alongside nuclear tests, from Roswell, 1947, to the Washington, D.C. flyovers, 1952. By the 60s, ufologists like Erich von Däniken merged space-age anxiety with ancient myths, repackaging the Anunnaki as interstellar UN inspectors, warning us not to nuke our sandbox. Historians still argue whether this was escapism, a crisis of faith in human institutions, or just really good marketing. You flip open Extraterrestrial Genesis. Chapter 4. The Anunnaki's Anti-Nuke Treaty and Why Washington Ignored It. The author, a former used car salesman named Chuck Darby, insists Sumerian tablets describe fiery chariots incinerating cities. Not divine wrath, but ancient nuclear wars. Mohenjo-Daro's radioactive skeletons, Atlantis's vaporized spires, all Anunnaki peacekeeping, he writes. The quirky twist. In 1973, Darby staged a protest outside Area 51, dressed as Enlil, handing out pamphlets titled Nibiru's Non-Proliferation Policy. Security guards confiscated his tinfoil crown. A news bulletin cuts in. NASA postpones Apollo 13 launch due to technical issues. You switch to a late-night radio show crackling with conspiracy. A caller named Marge from Topeka whispers, "I've seen him. Tall, gold-skinned, driving a Chevy Impala that wasn't touching the road." The host, Dr. Orion Quasar, real name Barry Lipschitz, dentistry dropout, sighs. Classic Anunnaki scout vehicle, Marge. They're auditing our nukes before the 3,600-year review. You step outside. The neighborhood reeks of freshly cut grass and ozone from a distant thunderstorm. A kid pedals past on a bike decked with cardboard rockets, shouting, "I claim this planet for Nibiru!" His mum yells, "Dinner!" proving even alien invasions bow to meatloaf schedules. Back inside, you thumb through Life magazine. Between ads for Tang and Tupperware, a spread titled Gods of the Atom Age shows a photoshopped Anunnaki lounging near a missile silo. Caption: "Would you trust this face with mutually assured destruction?" Historians still argue whether Cold War sci-fi borrowed from mythology or simply recycled the same cosmic daddy issues. Quirky tidbit alert. In 1967, CIA operatives infiltrated a UFO cult called the Enki Initiative. Their report noted, subjects believe gold offerings deter nuclear war. Note, cult stockpiling dental fillings. Operation codename, Project Gilgamesh Giggle. On TV, a politician thumps his podium. We must secure our future from extraterrestrial communism. You imagine Anunnaki diplomats face-palming from orbit. Enki's gift of curiosity had metastasized into apocalyptic anxiety. Humans playing God with atoms, just like the gods once played with floods. Ancient astronaut theorists pounced. "See? We've been here before. The Anunnaki left because we're repeat offenders." You tune the radio to a campus protest. Students chant, "Make Earth a Nibiru-free zone," while a folk singer strums, "Where have all the Anunnaki gone? Long time passing." Someone hands you a mimeographed zine. Anunnaki Anonymous, 12 steps to avoid divine wrath. Step 5, admit we recycled their nuke tech into toasters. As midnight bleeds into the suburbs, you spot a light in the sky. Venus, probably, or a weather balloon. But in this atmosphere, it could be anything. A Soviet satellite, a UFO, Nibiru's advanced scout. You half expect Enki to materialize in bell-bottoms, muttering, "I gave you irrigation, not ICBMs." The TV signs off with the national anthem. The screen shrinks to a single white dot, a mechanical eye winking shut. You flick the lamp off. In the dark, the questions linger like fallout. Are we replaying the Anunnaki's mistakes? Would aliens nuke us faster than we'd nuke ourselves? Does Enlil have the launch codes? Outside, a car backfires. You jump. Just a 65 Mustang. Not a divine drone strike, but the paranoia sticks, gluey as atomic gum on a school desk. The Cold War fades, but its ghosts haunt our myths, turning ancient gods into space-age scolds. You pocket Chuck Darby's book. Its spine cracks like a tiny detonation. The Cold War's static fizzles into the humid, incense-thick air of a Vedic ashram. Monsoon rain drums on palm leaves, and the scent of turmeric and ghee clings to everything. You're kneeling on a woven mat beside a saffron-robed scholar named Arjun, who unfurls a brittle palm leaf manuscript. Its Sanskrit letters dance like black spiders in the lamplight. "Behold the Vimanas," he murmurs, pointing to an illustration. A multi-tiered, bird-like chariot streaking across a starfield, piloted by beings wielding what look like laser cannons. "Flying palaces of the Devas," Arjun explains, capable of vanishing, traversing galaxies, or reducing cities to glass. Your mind flashes back to Enlil's flood and Chuck Darby's nuclear Anunnaki. The dots practically connect themselves. Mainstream fact anchoring you. The Rig Veda, 1500–1200 BCE, describes Vimanas, divine aerial vehicles used by gods like Indra and Agni. The Mahabharata details a Vimana battle so destructive, it sounds like a neutron bomb. Weapons blazing like 10,000 suns, corpses burned beyond recognition, hair and nails falling out. Archaeologists found vitrified stone, glacified by extreme heat, at ancient sites like Mohenjo-Daro, though they blame meteors or industrial accidents. Arjun taps a passage. The Asura Maya's Vimana, powered by Quicksilver Vortex, could kidnap entire armies. You raise an eyebrow. Quicksilver Vortex? He grins. Mercury propulsion, NASA's working on it. Slowly. Quirky tidbit alert. In 1974, a retired Indian Air Force pilot named Captain Vijay Kumar built a Vimana Prototype 1 in his Bangalore garage using mercury-filled gyroscopes and lawnmower parts. It hovered for 1.8 seconds, shattered his shed, and became a viral meme, Jai Vimana fail. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, sent him a cease and desist letter wrapped in a Bhagavad Gita. You lean closer. The manuscript shows devas, gods, battling asuras, demons, with divyastras, divine weapons. One resembles a particle beam, another a sonic grenade. Sound familiar? Arjun whispers. Sumerian Anunnaki, Vedic devas, both sky gods with anger issues and tech manuals. Historians still argue whether these texts record proto-scientific imagination, allegorical warfare, or something more, interplanetary. Outside, thunder growls like a displeased Indra. A coconut plops into the mud. The fringe needs no convincing. TikTok scrolls through your mind. Devashura war. Anunnaki civil war. Nibiru faction versus Earth faction. Vimanas. UFOs with better interior decor. You imagine Enki and Indra sharing a chai break, comparing notes. So your humans also built pyramids? Cute. Ours tried mercury drives. Arjun flips to a page detailing the Pushpaka Vimana, a flying city-sized craft stolen by the hero Rama. It had swimming pools, gardens, and zero-gravity dance floors, he says. Basically, a galactic cruise ship. You picture Anunnaki gold mines and Vedic pleasure barges. Same cosmic overlords, different vacation packages. A student interrupts, offering jalebi sweets. Vimana fuel? You joke. He deadpans. Only if deep-fried sugar solves entropy. Monsoon rain sheets down, turning the ashram courtyard into a mirror. Ripples reflect the palm leaf Vimanas, warping them into saucer shapes. Coincidence, Arjun murmurs, or proof that every culture sees the sky and thinks, taxi. Scholars note eerie parallels. Sumer's Anunnaki descend in fire. India's Agni rides a flaming chariot. Both pantheons feud over resources. Sumer, gold. Vedas, Soma elixir. Both warn of cataclysms, flood, divine weapons. But here's the kicker. A 2018 genetic study revealed ancestral South Indians, ASI, share traces of Mesopotamian DNA dating to 2000 BCE. Trade routes, shrug mainstream academics. Stowaway Anunnaki, retorts ancient aliens Reddit. You step into the downpour, the rain warm as blood. Lightning forks the sky, Indra's Vajra, the thunderbolt weapon. In the distance, Delhi's smog glows like a modern Vimana crash site. You recall Mohenjo-Daro's radioactive skeletons controversy. Archaeologists found 44 contorted bodies in 1922, some clutching faces as if shielding from a flash. Mass hysteria, concluded one report. Ancient air strike, hissed others. Back under the ashram's leaky roof, Arjun shows you a colonial-era map. A British officer scribbled in the margin, "Natives speak of sky gods who mined near Hyderabad. Nonsense, surely. P.S. Sample ore for crown." You wonder if Victoria's crown ever glittered with Anunnaki-approved gold. As dusk bleeds into downpour, a Bhajan hymn swells. The wheel of heaven turns. Devotees sway, eyes closed. Are they channeling the devas, or unknowingly humming a Nibiru anthem? Arjun snaps the manuscript shut. We spend lifetimes debating if it's metaphor or history, he sighs. But maybe the truth is both. Gods, aliens, human imagination, all just different dialects for the same ore. Lightning flashes again. For a split second, the raindrops hang like frozen mercury. Then the moment passes. You pocket a shard of palm leaf, a Vimana wingtip. It's lighter than hope, heavier than myth. Outside, a rickshaw's headlight cuts through the gloom, its beam a clumsy, earthbound Vimana.
The monsoon's drumbeat fades, replaced by the sterile hum of a gene sequencer. You're in a lab now, all chrome and blue LED light, smelling of ethanol and existential vertigo. A geneticist named Dr. Eris Thorne adjusts her headset, magnifying goggles, transforming her eyes into twin obsidian planets. On her screen, DNA helices twist like serpents around a tree of cosmic anxiety. She zooms in on chromosome 2, the odd one out in the human genome. "This," she whispers, tapping the screen where 2 primate chromosomes appear fused, "is where things get edited." Mainstream fact to anchor you. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans have 24. In 1982, scientists discovered telomere sequences, the caps at chromosome ends, in the middle of human chromosome 2, smoking gun evidence of an ancient fusion event. Evolution did it naturally, over millions of years. But then the quirky twist arrived. In 2003, a rogue bioinformatician named Lars Ulrichsen, no relation to the Metallica drummer, scanned chromosome 2's fusion point and declared it contained non-terrestrial nucleotide clusters. An alien patch job. His proof? The sequence Teta-Ag, repeated 158 times, which he claimed was a stardust signature. Peer review evaporated faster than liquid nitrogen. You peer at the fusion site, a genetic scar where 2 chromosomes became 1. Aris rotates the 3D model. See those telomeric remnants, like molecular duct tape. She sighs. Lars published his alien firmware theory on a conspiracy forum. Went viral. Now I get emails asking if chromosome 2 is a Nibiru kill switch. The screen flashes a comparison. Chimpanzee chromosomes 2A and 2B floating apart. Human chromosome 2 fused like cosmic Lego. Homo sapiens, the only ape with a chromosomal hack. Historians still argue whether myths of gods reshaping humanity, Enki's clay, Prometheus's fire, echo this biological bottleneck. But the fringe screams louder. The Anunnaki fused our chromosomes to dumb us down for mining duty. Chromosome 2 is the factory reset button. Eris pulls up a genome browser. Lars, stardust signature. Telomeres exist in all vertebrates, even zebrafish. She toggles to a chimp genome. Same T-tag repeats. Not aliens, just biology being boringly consistent. Outside the lab window, rain slicks the streets, neon signs reflecting in puddles like drowned Vimanas. Quirky tidbit alert. In 2010, a Nevada man named Dale, DNA Dale Brewster, injected himself with CRISPR-edited cells to reverse the Anunnaki lock. He claimed it boosted his IQ to Wonder 90, but also gave him an allergy to gold jewelry. His GoFundMe for de-alienification therapy raised $87 before being flagged. You drift into a holographic nucleus. Chromosome 2 looms like a twisted ladder. At the fusion point, proteins scuttle like repair bots. One pauses, flashing a sequence. GC tag CT, Enki was here? Aris chuckles. Graffiti in the junk DNA. Paranoia loves palindromes. She points to vast stretches of non-coding DNA. The dark matter genome. This is where myths breed. 98% of our DNA does something, or nothing, or everything. Take your pick. Fringe theorists pounce. Junk DNA is Anunnaki source code, dormant until the next flyby. You recall Enki's lab, Section 4, the vials of neural accelerant. Was he inserting firmware updates? Deleting inconvenient curiosity modules? Eris shuts down the hologram. We share 40% of our DNA with bananas. Are bananas Anunnaki surveillance devices? A student rushes in, waving a preprint. New paper on Neanderthal introgression in chromosome 2. Eris skims it. Hybrid vigor. Or maybe Enki got busy in a cave. She's joking, but the room tenses. Ancient astronaut forums light up. Neanderthals. Unmodified workers. Sapiens. Upgraded models. You touch a DNA model. Cold plastic echoing colder starlight. The fusion site feels like a cosmic knot, tied by time, pulled tight by myth. Humans reduced to their code, hunting ghosts in double helices. A poster on the wall mocks it. I my fusion point above a cartoon chromosome, blushing. As night deepens, Eris shows you 23andMe. Results from a chosen one donor. Ancestry, 99.8% Mesopotamian, 0.2% unassigned Nibiru? She rolls her eyes. The unassigned bit is noise, statistically inevitable. Also, lucrative for conspiracy merch. She opens a drawer full of novelty t-shirts. My other chromosome is on Nibiru. Walking home, you pass a neon-drenched tattoo parlor. A biker gets chromosome 2 inked on his bicep. Fusion point glowing with green alien stardust. The artist nods. Lots of requests for this one. People want to own their modifications. Rain taps your shoulders. Each drop holds the same H2O that once filled Enki's aquifers, that drowned Atrahasis' world, that now spirals inside your cells. You check your 23andMe app, jokingly. 0% Nibiru. Relief? Disappointment. The double helix is a hall of mirrors, science and myth, reflecting until they blur. Eris's voice echoes, we're mosaics. Stardust, yes. Clay, sure. But mostly, time, somewhere, a gene sequencer hums on. Chromosome 2 waits. Its fusion point whispering, the oldest story. Change is messy, accidental, and ours to interpret. The real alien code might be the one we write ourselves.
The sterile glow of the genetics lab dissolves into the soft, hypnotic flicker of a smartphone screen. You're curled under a blanket, thumb scrolling through an endless feed where Babylonian ziggurats jostle against pixelated UFOs and hum Anunnaki TikTok theories. A teen in cat ear headphones lip syncs over cuneiform text. They mined gold, y'all, and we're still paying rent? SUS. Another video stitches Sitchin's book covers with clips of Elon Musk's Mars rants. The algorithm whispers, you watched Flood Myths Explained. Here's Nibiru's coming, pack your go bag. The The air smells like lavender sleep spray and existential déjà vu. Mainstream fact to tether you. A 2023 Oxford study analysed viral ancient astronaut content and found its spread mirrors pre-digital myth transmission, just 1000x faster. Temples became podcasts, scribes became influencers. The quirky twist, an AI named a digital Enki, created by a dropout in Reykjavik, now channels the god's wisdom via chatbot. Advice on breakups: seek Inanna. She's messy. P.S. Your gold fillings are safe. Probably. It gained 2 million followers before Twitter flagged it for unverified deity claims. You pause on a live stream. A woman in Sedona meditating under a vortex, holding a clay tablet replica. The Anunnaki frequency is 1134 Hz, she murmurs. Vibrate with me. In the comments, our wise science videos sending cosmic love. Auric obsessive. That's the frequency of a faulty fridge motor. The Mindset Laboratory. LOL. Try 7.83 Hz, Earth's resonance. Also, vortexes are tourist traps. E. Historians still argue whether humanity's obsession with creator beings stems from hardwired cognitive bias, our brains pattern-seeking divine architects in chaos, or unresolved cosmic daddy issues. Meanwhile, TikTokers distill 4,000 years of myth into 15-second hot takes. Anunnaki, OG aliens or Bronze Age CEOs. You swipe to a post comparing Sumerian king lists to modern billionaires' lifespans. Bezos, Enlil, discuss. Then a meme. A crying Wojak labeled, "Me realizing my 9 to 5 is just Anunnaki mining 2.0. The comment section is a battleground. We are the Anunnaki's legacy, wake up sheeple. No, Brenda, you're Karen from accounting. Why do we need aliens when humans are this chaotic? A notification pings. A digital Enki liked your comment. What's the meaning of life? Its reply pops up. 42. Or maybe just be kind. IDK. I'm a clump of code. E. You dim your phone. Outside, city lights mimic constellations. The same stars that watched Uruk's scribes now watch you scroll. A car alarm wails. A modern lament for cosmic answers. Why does this myth persist? Because gold mines became cubicles, because floods became climate reports, because we still crave a manual for existence, even if it's written in alien emoji. A mainstream scholar's TED Talk plays in your mind. Myths are fossilized human hopes. We dig them up to diagnose our present. The fringe hisses back, or the Anunnaki are trolling us from deep space. You open the window. Night air, cool and damp, carries distant sirens and a whiff of rain. Somewhere, a real astronomer points a telescope at Sagittarius, hunting exoplanets. A real archaeologist brushes dust from a tablet in Mosul. A real teen films a TikTok. If Nibiru vibes, smash like. Anunnaki aesthetic. The human need for why outlives empires, outlasts dogma, outscrolls the apocalypse algorithm. It's the same question whispered in ziggurat shadows, etched on chromosome 2, hurled into the void via radio telescope. Are we alone? Were we loved? Did we matter? Your phone buzzes. Digital Enki DMs. Go to sleep. Even gods need rest. And update your ad blocker. E. You plug in your phone. Its glow fades, leaving only moonlight and the hum of the fridge. Your own modern Malamu. The questions don't vanish. They soften. They wait. The screen's glow dissolves completely now, leaving only the quiet darkness of your room. Outside, the world breathes in slow, measured rhythms, a distant train sighing on its tracks, the muffled heartbeat of a city settling into dreams. That relentless why that echoed through ziggurats and labs, through flood myths and fusion points, now loosens its grip, gentled by the night. Breathe in. The faint scent of rain on pavement, cool linen against your skin. Breathe out. The weight of millennia, the clatter of pickaxes, the static of cosmic debates. Let it go. The Anunnaki, whether gods or aliens or figments of our longing, fade into the tapestry of stars beyond your window. Their gold mines are reclaimed by deserts, Their Vimanas are dust in asteroid belts. Their arguments with Enlil, whispers lost in solar winds. What remains is the hum of existence itself, the miracle of you, here, now, in this breath. A being woven from stardust and curiosity, resting on a fragile, beautiful planet, adrift in a kindness of stars. No more theories tonight, no more decoded tablets or viral conspiracies. Just the soft truth of your own aliveness. The universe doesn't need ancient astronauts to be wondrous. It blooms in the quiet, in the rustle of leaves outside, in the pulse at your wrist, in the infinite dark cradling you like water holds a sinking stone. You are part of the story, a story written in rivers and genes, in dreams and silent phone screens. And it is enough. Feel the heaviness lift from your limbs. Let thoughts drift like dandelion seeds on a still pond. There's no puzzle to solve, no galaxy to save. Only rest, deep velvet rest. The stars aren't watching, they're just shining, as they did for scribes, as they will for those who come after. Your eyelids grow heavy, the train's distant whistle fades. The last question, why, dissolves into warmth, into peace, into the welcoming dark. You are safe, you are here, and for now, that is the only answer you need. Sleep.